This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter and welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. I know it's been a few days since I did it on this day, but I'm doing it now. Today is April the 18th, and on this day, 25 years ago, the 1998 NFL Draft happened. It was huge and all that. Indianapolis had the #1 pick, and they wanted a quarterback. Jim Harbaugh just wasn't cutting it. So it was either Peyton Manning or Ryan Leaf because they had excellent prospects and could be future franchise quarterbacks. Leaf had more upside and a stronger throwing arm. Manning was just a polished prospect. He was more mature. So anyway, it was a tight affair for the 98 draft. The Colts ended up with the #1 pick. Football, unlike hockey and basketball, don't have a lottery system, meaning that the worst team is the worst team gets the #1 pick and all that, unless you traded away that future #1 pick to another team, and that team inherits it. Anyway, so Indianapolis, a couple years after almost pulling off an upset and going to Super Bowl 30, were in trouble. San Diego was also in trouble after their Super Bowl 29 run that lost to the Niners. They were faltering. They both wanted a quarterback. The Colts had the #1 pick, all set up, ready to go. And that was the big move. Now, the two quarterbacks, Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf, both were from different backgrounds. Peyton Manning was the man from Tennessee who was a good SEC quarterback who gave Arkansas fits, of course. You know, as an Arkansas fan, you gotta be upset. But the funny thing is, Peyton would have probably been the #1 pick in the 97 NFL draft had he not decided to go back to Tennessee for his senior season. He wanted one goal in mind. Well, two. A, to win the national title, and B, to beat Florida. Funny as it sounds, Peyton Manning could not beat Florida in his career. Tennessee and Florida have a big rivalry. Ryan Leaf, on the meanwhile, was slowly but surely becoming a good quarterback for Washington State. It's the same university that bred Drew Bledsoe 5 years prior. And Ryan Leaf led Wazoo to the Rose Bowl when they should have been able to take care of Michigan, who were #1 in the country. Unfortunately, a erroneous clock problem ruined Wazoo's chances for a comeback win against Michigan. But still, Ryan Leaf had some upside to him. So it was huge and all that. Anyway, so there were some great players who were actually undrafted. The great Jeff Saturday, who ended up being a Colt and being a good center, was drafted by the Ravens. Mike Vanderjagt was undrafted, but he signed with the Colts. Well, Vanderjagt would spend some time with the Argos. So, you know, Indy drafted him. Got him. Phil Dawson was undrafted by the Raiders and picked up by the Raiders. But then Cleveland would come calling once the Browns started back up in '99. He would be there for so many years. London Fletcher was undrafted. He came from John Carroll University. So the Rams got London Fletcher. Of course, the 4 Hall of Famers were picked in the first round. We all know Peyton Manning was. Charles Woodson, who was drafted 4th overall by the Raiders, was put into the Hall of Fame class of 2021. Alan Fanega, a guard from LSU, offensive guard, taken by Pittsburgh. He's in the Hall of Fame. And Randy Moss, who was taken 21st overall by the Vikings, is in the Hall of Fame. There were some trades. The biggest trades were in the first round. The first round trades, Arizona actually had the #2 pick and traded with San Diego. So Arizona would trade its first round pick to San Diego, the #2 pick to San Diego, in exchange for San Diego's first and second round picks in the '99 draft. No, sorry, the first and second round picks in the '98 draft, and then a first round pick in '99, plus Eric Metcalf and Patrick Sharp. So the Chargers got the 2 pick. Arizona would pick #3, which was funny because, yeah, it So anyway, Buffalo traded their first round pick to Jacksonville for the one of one Rob Johnson, and Buffalo had the number 9 pick, but it went to Jacksonville. Cincy actually were rewarded Washington's first and third round picks as compensation for picking up Dan Wilkinson. So Cincy had the 17th pick. The Pats were given the Jets' first round pick after signing restricted free agent Curtis Martin. So the Pats went 18th. And there were some major moves there too. But yeah. So yeah. So there were some major trades and all that. So with the first pick of the draft, the Colts were on the clock and they took Peyton Manning. They figured Manning was polished and a good prospect. San Diego decided to go with Ryan Leaf. No big deal. You lose Manning, you get Leaf. No big deal. The Cardinals, with the pick that they swapped with the Chargers, got Andre Wadsworth, a defensive end from Florida State, who was okay for Arizona, but he wasn't a superstar. Oakland went fourth and took Charlie Woodson, the Heisman Trophy winner from Michigan. So Oakland decided to go with the Heisman winner. And Woodson broke the Heisman jinx that you win the Heisman, you're basically not going to win anything in the NFL. Wrongo. Charles Woodson was a great corner for both Oakland and Green Bay. I think he won a ring or two, so no big deal. It worked. The Bears would take Curtis Enis, fifth, running back from Penn State. Well, Enis does rhyme with that word. The Rams went sixth and took Grant Wistrom from Nebraska as a defensive end. Worked out well. The Saints took Carl Turley, offensive tackle from San Diego State. Dallas took Greg Ellis from North Carolina. Jacksonville took Freddie Taylor from Florida with the pick that Buffalo had to trade for to get Rob Johnson. That worked out well for Jacksonville. They got rid of Rob Johnson, and Fred Taylor was basically Jacksonville's star running back until Maurice Jones-Drew entered the picture. And the Ravens took Dwayne Starks from Miami. Unfortunately, one of the biggest draft day slides in NFL history happened, as the Minnesota Vikings did take Randy Moss 21st overall. However, Moss would have been picked way higher if it wasn't for his off-the-field problems and all that. Some say they were actually premeditated or something like that. Dallas allegedly, with the 8th pick, was going to go with Moss, but they didn't like his behavior. Jacksonville passed Baltimore, Philly, Atlanta, Cincy, Carolina, Seattle, Tennessee, Cincy again, picking from Washington, New England, Green Bay, and Detroit all passed on Randy Moss. And looking at the guys after Greg Ellis for Dallas, Carolina did not make the right move, getting Jason Peters from Nebraska. Seattle made the wrong move, getting Anthony Simmons from Clemson. Tennessee, well, Kevin Dyson, he's known for that play. Mississippi City Miracle. Cincy, Brian Simmons wasn't that bad for Cincy, but it could have been better. And New England really fucked up because Robert Edwards, the pick that they got from the Jets, it worked out well, but then Edwards just had to tear his knee during a flag football thing during Pro Bowl week, and it ruined his career. Anyway, so the Vikings took Randy Moss. So they did what they could. Famous picks from the 98 draft. Also, Corey Chavis went in the second round to Arizona. Sam Coward went to Buffalo. Patrick Surtain to Miami. Samari Rolle to Tennessee. Olin Kurtz to the Bears. Leonard Little to the Rams. Although his career would be ruined because of an accident which he simply killed somebody, but still was playing football. Eagles took Jeremiah Trotter. Seattle took Avon Green before the Packers made him better. Allen Robinson went to Philly. Avon Green was the third round pick. So was Kurtz and Leonard Little. Okay. Brian Greasy went in the third round to Denver, even though he led Michigan to a partial national title. Heinz Ward went to Pittsburgh. I think it was a compensatory pick. And basically, after that, nothing else much happened. Although the Vikings took Matt Burke, a good center from Harvard. in the 6th round. Matt Hasselbeck went in the 6th round to Green Bay as a compensatory pick. And Cam Quayle was named Mr. Irrelevant as the last pick. So that was that. But it was the immediate aftermath after 98 that really ruined things. Peyton Manning, we all know, legend, superstar for the Colts, best quarterback since Johnny U, and helped the Colts do well. He did get a Super Bowl ring with the Colts in 2007. Should have been 2006, but whatever. He was just Mr. Colt, and then he just had to have that neck problems. The neck surgery, Colts didn't want to touch him with a 10-foot pole or an 8-foot crow act, so they let him walk. They took Andrew Luck in the 2012 draft to set up for quarterback. Andrew Luck then abruptly retired out of freaking nowhere and all that. And of course, Peyton went to Denver, led them to the Super Bowl in 2016, and he retired on top. And what can we say about Ryan Leaf? What a bust. But remember, for how bad Ryan Leaf was a bust, he actually was doing quite well. He was 2-0 to start his career, and the Chargers may have made the right move, getting Ryan Leaf instead of Peyton Manning. But unfortunately, he had a shitty game against the Chiefs in week 3, and he never recovered. He was injured. He threw for like 4. I don't know his numbers with the Chargers. Now I think he only won 4 games with the Chargers in 3 seasons. He was off injured. He would be playing golf instead of rehabbing himself for football. He was terrible. He even had problems with a red flag in the interviews, saying that if I was the first overall pick, I go to Vegas. I have to be honest with you. Honesty is the best policy. But unfortunately for Mr. Leaf, it wasn't anything possible. Ryan Leaf just went off. He went off on a Chargers guy in the dressing room. Fuck it, don't talk to me. Knock it off. He got mad at fans heckling him during preseason stuff. He was a mess. Leaf was then traded to Dallas, and, his career ended terribly. The Chargers were 1-15 with him in 2000. Although that was a good sign. They moved on from Ryan Leaf. And though it would take a couple years, they got Drew Brees. I think that was the 2001 draft. I can't remember when Brees was drafted by the Chargers. But anyway, they got that. And with the number 1 overall pick, well, they had the number 1 pick, but they traded that to Atlanta for their pick, which was, I think, third or fourth in 2000. And Atlanta's number 1 pick was Michael Vick, and it looked like a perfect move. Atlanta got their quarterback. Michael Vick was a legend. But unfortunately, he spent his money on one of the most improbable things that you would think of: dogfighting. Are you serious? You're an athlete. You could have blown your money on drugs, homes, boats, or even hookers, and yet you blow it on dogfighting? Some say that's worse than drugs and hookers. I doubt that. Well, I mean, drugs and hookers are just as bad, if you will. But the fact of the matter was that, the Chargers got LaDainian Tomlinson, and he was a Chargers icon. Greatest running back in Chargers history, I might say. So, yeah. So the Chargers kind of got out on top. I mean, they got Drew Brees in the draft. And then Brees was a Charger for a while until Chargers decided to get Phil Rivers. Well, they actually drafted Eli Manning first overall, but Eli didn't want to play for San Diego. They got rid of Brees. Brees ended up in New Orleans. He almost was a Miami Dolphin, but they had their reservations about him. So yeah, Ryan Leaf just blew off into the wind. Pun intended. So that's the story of the 1988 NFL Draft. Take it with a grain of salt. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do